Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a little while since I've been on here. I've been going through a really big shift, and I feel like I finally landed just in the last few days where, I had a lot of upheaval and kind of like that, being repotted feeling where you're like, your roots are exposed and you're going through the air and you're coming into your new pot, and then in the midst of that was travel with my family. And so there were just like all these things going on all these different levels where it felt like a really huge like DNA level purge where my mind was just completely taken out of the equation and I wasn't able to track. There was a lot of like kind of like a feeling of shock in a way. And then landing with family, and yet there was also stuff going on behind the scenes in there that was just like, oh my God. And so I'm finally back home, and my daughter and I spent the day at the river at a really isolated and nurturing part of the river, and like grounding, and then just kind of slowly moving back into things. So I definitely feeling a shift. I feel it's a real collective shift for a lot of us just this week in the last few days. So I want to just read into the energy and see what wants to come up. It's been a while and there's a lot that I could talk about, but I just want the cards to kind of guide me and what's most important and what's most relevant and collective. So I'm going to do an overall energy for what's going on right now, at least for those of us that resonate with each other and seem to be kind of journeying on the same part of the wave where we're experiencing similar things. So if that's you, thank you for being here. Gosh, okay, so overall energy for right now, what wants to be said right now for this energy, and we get, oh yeah, exactly, Koala Spirit. Spirit has a plan. I don't think I've ever had this come up in a reading, in a collective reading, and I've been doing these a little over a year. Spirit has a plan, and that's what I kept feeling, because there was just so much like where my mind, it couldn't make sense. My mind couldn't make sense of it, where even things that seemed to be going in a certain direction just like fell out, like the floor fell out on everything, and yet knowing like, okay, there's a reason, but even some of the things that we're feeling in our bodies or in our lives that don't make sense, it's like just knowing, you can feel in the energy that there's just major musical chairs. It's like I don't even have a lot of words for how to describe this energy, because it's like ineffable. It's inevitable because the mind can't track it. But again, that spirit has a plan. And a lot of intensity in just the energetics. And so I had that feeling after that last reading that I did, which was several weeks ago. I had this feeling, and it coincided with an Amanda Lawrence video where she was saying the same thing that I was feeling, where there's just this rise in intensity. And I felt like it was like rising up to the Lion's Gate. In fact, I did a personal reading yesterday where there was like the Lion's Gate energy came in like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 times, where it seemed to really be indicating like something's going to shift after that, but it might even take a while. Like, I don't know if that's the peak. I mean, in the U.S. we're having, you know what's going on in the U.S. So, it's like I can't imagine things like really settling down, till after November. I mean, things aren't going to settle down, right? It's going to keep intensifying, but we're going to acclimate, right? So I feel like the energy we're in right now is a real threshold moment. And so that can be times where if you're energetically sensitive, you can really feel a lot of pressure in your body, because often our bodies will respond to the energies because they're feeling it all. They're feeling the activations, they're feeling the clearings, they're feeling what's going on the DNA level, the difference in the spin, the difference in our heart rate, the difference in everything that's going on. Our bodies can register it when our minds don't, and then that can scare our minds. It can create this loop of uncertainty. But again, just reminding ourselves that our bodies actually, our souls know what they're doing. If we're on the Ascension timeline, if we're part of the Ascension collective, then it's like we signed up for this. So, and if we're having weird body stuff or weird nervous system stuff or a lot of anxiety, it's like, our human selves, even our human bodies can be kind of freaked out, but it's like our higher selves know what we're doing. We are guided, and if we can stay out of fear and stay into trust. So this is something that really came through for me yesterday with a dear soul sister of mine, 2 of them actually. And interestingly, it's just time. It's time for that collaboration and for that support, because a lot of us are doing some like big heavy shifting, heavy lifting, and heavy moves right now. So just know, if you haven't met your people yet and you're not having that validation, may this be it for you. But also know that there are a whole collective of us doing these big moves, feeling these things. Some of us are really energetically sensitive, so we feel it hitting our bodies really intensely, and it can really kick up fear and anxiety because there's just such, we're picking up on all the minutia. You're picking up on the polarities, the dark and the light, and it's hard. The mind can't sort it out, and the best thing you can do is just absolutely surrender and trust. That seems to be the overall message that I've been getting for myself, through myself, and through my sisters, and for my sisters through readings and stuff like that. It's just hang in there and trust. So here it is again. So let's see what else wants to come up with the tarot here. Yeah, wow, the Empress, that's really powerful. So it's like, again, that reminder of like you are at the helm of this, whatever is happening in your life, whatever might be crumbling or whatever might be scaring you or making you nervous, it's like and this is what's coming up in that reading yesterday, it's like your soul chose this. Again, she knows what she's doing, he knows what he's doing, your higher self, your higher aspects, your team, your entourage, your soul family. It's like on the higher level, you absolutely have this. Spirit has this, this is written, is a plan you can trust, you can trust, lean into that higher aspect of yourself. And I've been having to remind myself. And the thing that I've been saying is like, I'm part of the Ascending Collective, and so I'm experiencing things differently, and I can't judge what I'm experiencing through the old lens, because we're here to facilitate and anchor this new. And so, it's like really, and here again, the wheat, right? Separating the wheat from the shaft and really paying attention to our minds and like, is this old paradigm energy? Is this an old paradigm thought? Because if it is, it needs to go. And it can be kind of scary to completely separate out from that, because then you're kind of like, somebody said it today, she was so cute. She was like, it's a shop that I read at on Thursdays, and nobody came in, so we just like talked the whole time, me and the two women that were there most of the time. But anyway, she was saying it's like, that duality where you're like, I forget how she said it, but she was saying like rising above the duality, because when you're feeling so much darkness, it can be scary. And she's like, but then when you rise above it and it kind of unifies, that can be kind of scary too, because you're in this whole new land and there aren't many people there. There aren't that many people anchored there. There are so many people anchored in the old energy and the density, and it's just constantly tugging at you. So that was one of the things that when I was in Colorado with my family, there was a lot of talk about like health, and this person died, and this person has this disease or this or this or that. And in my world, we're youthing, and we're aligning our health through consciousness and putting all my eggs in the basket of consciousness. And I'm just not playing that game. I'm not playing the mind spell of the body and the health system and all these things. I'm just separating out from it. But there were just so many plugs from that, in, and then it can trigger fear, because there are all these trapping systems and fears, and it's like, there are all these nets, you can get through many, many gates, but, there was always going to be another net that tries to like hook you into fear. And it's like that practice. It's always great practice for me to be like in my hologram, based on my beliefs and what I'm choosing to create. It's different. It might be different than everybody else around me, in this town that I live, there are other people that I can feel that, are also kind of on that mindset, so you can feel it energetically in the soup. But where I was, it was just a lot of frenetic. Colorado's great, it's very green, it's very, just does everything all the right ways that you should, but it's still, fast paced. It's still just sort of this, it's just a different energy from the small town that I'm in, and then half the week I'm out in the desert in the middle of nowhere, so there aren't a lot of like imprints, right? So there were just a lot of like the matrix imprints in the energetic field. So again, my body was reacting. I had like a lot of like heart palpitations, and at night my heart was beating like really fast and stuff like that, and it was just responding. It was just responding, and I had to just be like, we're gonna be okay, and like try to ground the best that I could, but as we get more and more sensitive, it's like we can really get thrown off by all the cell towers and all the Wi-Fi's. There must have been like here, my neighborhood, there's maybe like 5, but it's like there is just like, you just can't get out of that, so really intense. And just knowing that and remembering that as we get more sensitive, we're going to feel stuff. So as traveling can be more difficult. Being on the airplane was kind of hard for me, and because I don't drive well because of my eyes, and I don't like driving. It's just too fast, and my body, and stuff like that. But the plane was kind of challenging too. So just being gentle with ourselves and not judging ourselves, as we go through this transition, because a lot of things that used to be normal or easy just aren't anymore. All right, I could just keep rambling on, but let me pull a couple more cards here. Let me pull some more cards here. Oh yeah, there we go. So it always just kind of validates what I've been saying. So there's the Nine of Swords. That's the fear and anxiety card, and that which keeps you up at night. So that's that matrix programming that sneaks in. I've also been feeling a lot. I've been talking about this with some people in my town here. A lot of sort of and other people as well. Other people that I've heard that have been feeling this. Even across the world. So yeah, definitely going on right now, a lot of parasitic energy, a lot of that denser energy. And again, approaching, even if you're not in the United States, it's a pivotal time. What happens here affects everything. And so, just a lot of fuckery, a lot of trickery, a lot of just, you can feel it, so I spent, 7 years plus 12, kind of like disentangling and being in a really dark relationship where there was always some sort of like conniving or like mind spell casting. And I got like really, really attuned to like feel when there was like a wobble in the web where it's like, oh, something's being concocted, just for my own safety, for my own peace of mind. And, especially after we split and like through custody things, I could always tell, I could just feel it in the network. And so that skill, and also like handicap, I think can be a handicap, right? Because you don't need to feel everything, but has really been activated for me. So I feel that like in the large scale, whenever there's some sort of conniving, like trickery or even like black magic or stuff, going on behind the scenes, you can feel it if you're tuned in, if you're sensitive, and if you've had those networks activated and trained in that way through your own survival or even however it comes about for you. And it can be really unnerving, especially in the middle of the night, just like kind of waking up and feeling those overlays. And just sometimes you can feel really suffocated by them. Similar to the frequencies that are around us, that just kind of disconnect us from our higher aspects, from our higher knowing, and you can feel kind of suffocated. But again, and this was coming up in that reading yesterday, just kind of like finding that thread, even if it's just one thought or one affirmation, can be spirit has a plan, or can be I'm part of the ascending collective and therefore I experience things differently. Like my friends and I will often say, like we have unique requirements of self-care because we're sensitive and we feel stuff, and so we have to do things differently, and a lot of times people don't understand that, and they might put you in whatever box. Like I set a boundary with this person. I actually had to get him out of my life. That was part of the transition that I was going through, where there was a certain trajectory where I was going in that seemed really great, but this person didn't, I don't know, he just kept like encroaching on my space, and I would set boundaries because it's like, I would explain to him like, this is how, not romantic, just kind of like a collaboration, but it's like, this is how I am, and this is why, because I need to conserve my energy and make sure I'm not leaking, he would understand, but then he kept encroaching. But anyway, it was this comment of like, you seriously need to lighten up, and I was just like, no, I don't, that's it, we're done, but again, kind of choosing your company to support you, and being willing to let go of people, and preserving your peace, and preserving your sanity, and preserving your sensitivity, because again, we're going through a threshold, we're going through a shift, a major shift, and again, it's affecting our bodies, it's affecting our relationships, it's affecting, again, things that we could do before easily, we can't anymore, and just really honoring that, and knowing that where we're going is a much better place, and it was the place that we planned, so a lot of this kind of stuff can be coming up as we step further and further out, separating that wheat from the shaft, and just moving on to this higher spirit plan. But it's tricky, because there's still a lot of density and a lot of this all around. This can be really triggered, but we're also purging. We're doing another level of purging. We're purging on a really deep DNA level, where again, it's off the radar. The mind, earlier on in the journey, you could kind of track it and be like, oh, this is related to this. And, okay, and I can see it, and here are all the symbols, and yes, there it is again, and there it is again, and like right now, it's just like, it's like metamorphosis soup, like caterpillar soup again, where like whole next level. And I do kind of feel that we're like kind of moving out of that into more clarity. Let me pull an oracle card here. Sorry, I was just looking at that card. Sovereignty. Okay, so yeah, there it is again. Yes, it's like we're coming more into our sovereignty. That's what I'm feeling, because that's where my mind was going. It's like we're stronger, we're steadier, we're more stable, because when you're in, and this message was coming up a couple weeks ago with the chaos, when you're in the chaos and it's swarming all around you, and that's a little bit of what I felt when I was traveling too, because I just couldn't, I was out of my routine, and I didn't have like my natural things that ground me effortlessly, just because it's what I do every day. I had to kind of make some effort, but I was also like, I only had a week, and we were all together for the first time in like 5 years, and I just sacrificed a lot of my like kind of grounding time to just ground in family and ground in nurturance and love in that way. But it was different than what I was used to, right? So Anyway, it being in any kind of chaos, and then of course the week before when I, my whole trajectory changed because I had to choose myself over this person that wasn't really a match. And I've known this person a really long time, so a lot of the things that I was seeing, I was kind of like, huh, that's really weird. I didn't know this about you. Like, you're just more comfortable with me now because we're collaborating in this way. So now you feel comfortable to show me who you are. But I'm glad I'm seeing this because I'm out, and. But a lot of people talking about that where it's like the true colors. I don't know if they're actually true colors or it's just people are really destabilized, and so not everybody's able to like really handle themselves well or appropriately. And so, but for whatever reason, it's like, and I also think, it's also the wheat from the chaff, because if you're up leveling and you're moving into a greater and greater sovereignty, people that aren't quite able to do that without a lot of flailing, you might need to separate with. And maybe you come back together later on, when you're both at an equal standing, but it's like you might be outgrowing people and people falling away. And it can be kind of shocking too and hurtful. And that's what happened to me, where I was just like, oh, kind of heartbroken. Like I didn't see that coming, I didn't see that coming at all. But, you just got to honor yourself. You got to stand in your sovereign self, even if you lose people, or even if they don't understand, or they judge you, or they project onto you, or, you lose really great things that you thought you were going to be building or achieving. It's like you always have to check in with yourself and see, is this truly aligned with, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier, is this aligned with the higher energy, or is it part of the matrix nightmare? And if it has any semblance of the matrix nightmare, then it needs to be separated out. And so it's just a time when a lot is coming up to be seen, to be chosen, and we're choosing ourselves, we're choosing the higher timeline in every instance. Like we can't compromise, we can't settle, we can't, because I had to go through a lot of also that Five of Pentacles type of energy where it was like, oh, nothing ever works out. And it's like, no, Spirit has a plan. It's like you're settling for something that is not worthy, like not worthy of your sovereign self and your sovereign timeline. So don't settle. If you're settling, it's going to fall apart, it's going to be torn away. You have to go the whole way. You have to bridge to that highest and know that it is for you, and that it's coming. And just don't settle, don't settle. Even if you have to go without, or you have to lose something, just keep going. Oh, wow, look at that. Yep, there it is, Five of Pentacles. I wondered if that was going to come out next. See, it always talks about what I just say. So Five of Pentacles, there it is, feeling like, oh, nothing ever works out. And it's like, no, there is this huge, huge door. You know how much must be on the other side of this door? Look at how big it is. And there's the keyhole, and it's quite low. The door is huge, but the keyhole is quite low. And look, there's the key, there's the key right there. So it's like that feeling of, you're a puddle on the floor, and you're just, in the fear and in the lack and in the, I can't have, but, and again, like what I was talking about, like bridging to that higher, even if it's just one affirmation or, one, and I was talking about this yesterday in the reading, like tapping, like I am safe, even though I feel really afraid, and even though all my demons are up, I know that I am a part of this Ascension collective. I am here for, can't find the words right now, but I am here for unity consciousness. I am here for the shift of the ages, and I have access. I am connected. I am sovereign, whatever it is, right? I'm safe, I'm free. And, bridging to that, because that's how we put that key in that lock, and we open the door to the potentials. We don't fall for this. We don't fall for the nightmare. So let me see what the next card is. The nine of wands, and that's the energy of perseverance. Where you're in that cave. You're in that cave. You're not quite out yet. You might not be able to hear your guides or your higher self. You might not have that stream. You might not be able to have that spirit talk like you can at other times. You're kind of going through the tunnel, working through the trial, but just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't sit down in a puddle, or if you do, let it be. Remind yourself that it's a time of alchemy, and that's what I was going to say. When we're in that chaos. We're in that chaos and we find our center. We come out on the other side with more of our sovereignty, with more of our center, where we can walk through even more, right? We acclimate to the intensity level, and we learn. And so one of the things that I find, and I've experienced this a lot over the last 2.5 years, were these threshold moments where you literally feel so compressed that you feel like you might, it's something about the nine of wands energy too. It's kind of like that moment where you have to persevere, right? But you can also feel like you're going to collapse, because right after the 9 of wands is the 10 of wands, where you're just absolutely exhausted. So it's like that pressure, but it's almost also where something breaks, but that pressure moment, where you can literally, because I had a few days where I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like I don't know how to keep doing this, and I had that again around the eclipse, where I was like, I can't even believe that what I'm going through is even possible to go through. Like, I don't know how anybody could get on the other side of this. This is when my daughter had that MK Ultra stuff, like really, really strong. And it was before we figured it out. And we were just really swimming in it, and it was really awful. And I had no idea. I knew evil. I had faced it within myself, within my own programs, AI programs that had gotten attached to me that were running the fear programs. We all have them, but some, especially if you're sensitive, you can kind of track it, and then you're like, oh my god, it's like you're like watching the whole program, the whole screen. It's like less unconscious, it's more conscious, which is really scary. But my daughter had it to a level that was just like beyond anything I even ever could possibly think was allowed on this fucking planet. Like how it's a planet of free will, and yet so just interfacing with that darkness to a level where you really, really think you're going to break, but you don't. You just get through it. Somehow you get through it, but those threshold moments where you feel, I cannot handle this anymore, and you might have an absolute breakdown, you might fall apart, on the floor screaming, or whatever, or, you get better at it, right? So now this time I was just like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this. And I was like, well, if I don't make it, if I end up like dying or having a heart attack or something, then, death belongs to God too. And I just have to like surrender and be okay with that. And it was the first time I was ever really able to just be like, whatever happens, I'll get through it. Even if it's, eternal life, even if it's as a spirit guide or whatever, like I will persevere, I can find my center. I can find my calm. And I can trust that I'm going to get through this. I can trust that there's a plan. I can trust that, my higher self is part of that plan, and stand in that sovereign space, right? And so we get better at these thresholds moments. You start to recognize them, where you're like, okay, there's that moment where I feel like I'm going to die. Well, that's alchemy. That's that compression. That's that Gandanta point where fire and water don't go well together. What happens? We don't know. It's a mystery. Something happens, and all of a sudden you're on the other side of it. You're in a new level of your sovereignty. You've up-leveled. The next card is the Two of Cups. There's that card of alignment. I view this as a card of alignment, where you merge more deeply with yourself. You have a deeper merging with yourself, with your polarities. They're together more. You've conquered something. You've alchemized. Whatever happens in those crunchiest of moments where you feel like you're gonna die or go insane, something really powerful happens. Here's the moon, and that's the indication of it's off the radar. It's not to be known. It's unconscious. It's unconscious, subconscious, where it's between your DNA and God. You don't get to know, maybe you do later, right? But you don't get to know in that moment. You just have to surrender to it and go under the water and remember that you're a mermaid and that you can breathe. You're not going to die. And even if you do, oh well, you're turned into a mermaid in the next life, and it's like you're going to bring it all forward, So there's no end. So you don't have to fear death. You don't have to fear going crazy, because you go crazy and then you get found again. You go to a new level. No matter what it is, you go to a new level, whether in your body, in your right state of mind, or onto the next incarnation or the next form or whatever it is. Those threshold moments are about alchemy, so we don't need to fear them. But I feel like we're coming out of one now, or in one now. For me, I feel like I'm coming out of it and I'm having some clarity. But the last 2 weeks, have been varying degrees of that, and varying degrees because it's again, it's like the chiseling away, the faceting of the stone, right? Where you go this angle, and then you go this angle, and then you go this angle, and then you go this angle. So you got to hit all the levels, which can be really overwhelming, because you're like, oh god, there's this, and then there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and this, and this. How do we do this? You're being refined. You're in the refinery, and which is interesting, because look there, you come out like this. You come out, see, everything's a tarot. You come out like this, you're holding your ball. Oh, that was perfectly well. You're holding it. You have it. It's like the in Tai Chi, where you have your energy ball. You have it. You feel it. Ooh, that feels good. All these tools that we can use. I just bought a bunch of new stones, because I felt like my stones just weren't doing it for me anymore, and so I got this Amazonite, which is just like so soothing in water. And then I bought this like little cage today at the shop that I read at in Mystic. If you're in town, they have these little cages, and then all these little baskets of different stones. So I just vibed out all these different stones. I don't want any of the heavy grounding stones. Like, I love tourmaline. I love all the. Actually, I'm wearing hematite. I should take it off, because I like that one. Yeah, I'm really into the stones right now, the support, and just really feeling like I'm noticing that I'm more energetically sensitive. I've always felt them. I feel them pulsing in my hands, and I feel kind of what they do to me, and I feel energy currents. But now it's like total next level, where it's, and what's interesting is the really grounding ones I don't want. I want ones with lift off, like some either soothing to my nervous system, or a kind of like lightning lift off type of energy. So I have like bumblebee, jasper in here. Anyway, just the tools, whatever your tools are, really tightening up on the nutrition, on the supplements, on water, nature, all these things that were a little hard for me when I was traveling to get enough of that. Although I did okay. But anyway, leaning into our tools, so that we can hold our center, through these things, through these threshold moments. But just knowing if you're still in that, or even just like, let's powwow about this together, where next time, or and I remember, I told this story once in a reading where you might not have seen it, where it was maybe, I think it was like 2015, and I had this like mermaid moment where, because it's funny because I actually brought that up, where I was going through a lot of alchemy, a lot of healing, because I was like, after I had gone through all the court stuff and stuff was settling down, it was like time to heal. So I just was on total like retreat, recluse. I didn't really go out much at all, and but I would go through, sometimes it would be like 3 weeks of like, ooh, like really dense stuff. And then I had this moment where I wrote this poem, and it was just kind of like, I realized that the energy that I felt in those darker moments was the goddess energy. It was the goddess energy, and that it was holding me and it was doing something for me. And I remembered, and I felt like a mermaid, where I was like, oh my God, I can breathe under here. Like, I don't need to thrash around. Like, I can surrender to this. And this is amazing. And, and I started really digging it, and then I popped out, so it just goes to show, like, when we resist, it takes longer, but when we surrender, it goes faster. But there is a way to like really enjoy that energy, enjoy that alchemy, even when you feel like crap. Like, often I got to the point where I could remind myself, like, okay, this is just like any other dark night of the soul. You're going to feel amazing on the other side. You're going to have a whole next level. But this one was really intense. And I was powwowing with one of my kindreds about this. But yeah, it's like, and she said, this is like DNA level, which is exactly what I thought for some reason. It's like hitting me like DNA. But, just a lot going on where, it was like I was saying before, it was harder to be like, okay, I understand what this is. This is in the context of the situation. It was just, again, the facets of the diamond. It was hitting on every level, which was really, really overwhelming. But again, it's only going to be more of that because we are going into more and more intensity, especially definitely through the summer and probably through November. And God, who knows, it probably just continues. But maybe at a certain point, we really do master this and we can walk right through. And obviously that being the goal, but just remembering when it starts to feel really intense, that it's just another one. It's just another alchemy. It's another compression. It's another clearing. It's another activation. And it can hit our bodies, it can hit our nervous systems, it can hit our relationships, it can hit other people's bodies and nervous system. You can like lose people, things can blow up. But again, it's all part of a divine plan. It's all part of a divine plan. And just surrendering to it and being willing to let go of who and what you need to let go of, and knowing that everything that happens is happening exactly as it needs to. Like, it couldn't happen any other way, because we can be like, oh, if I would have just done this, or maybe I should have this and that, or how did I do this? And it's like, no, it, like, every part of it was a step along the way, and again, our higher selves are at the helm of this, our higher selves and the divine plan that we're all a part of. And so, we're walking our paths out, and they might be messy, and we might even be playing the bad guy in some instances in our lives, but it's still part of that grand plan, and it's part of that untying of the knot and coming into alignment with ourselves, with more of ourselves, and coming into that sovereignty, things happening in a way that we can confront these fears and confront these nightmares and confront these feelings of lack and uncertainty, and moving through them, persevering, strengthening those muscles, transforming through those thresholds, so just trusting. And at a certain point, it is relevant to play the game in a way that's full of resistance and full of all these things, because we have to create drama in our outer worlds to crunch us, to bring us more into our center. But and then after a while, we don't need that anymore, and we can become more conscious and aware of the patterns. So I'm talking about the patterns and the way the energy feels, the way it feels in that moment where you feel like you're being crunched and where you feel like everything is falling apart. But knowing that's the Gandanta point, that's where the alchemy is happening, and that's when you can actually be excited and grateful for it, because you're like, ooh, I'm up leveling, and the more I can relax into this up leveling, the faster it will happen. So that's great. All right, let me pull. I am at 28 minutes. I'm going to keep going. I might wrap up fairly soon. Four of Cups. Okay, the Four of Cups. Let me pull another card and see why that is coming up. My chair is really creaky, and it's bothering me. When I was doing my reading last night, I'm like, oh, it's like the chair is going to fall out from underneath me. It's kind of the energy right now. Soul song. Oh yeah. Okay. So this is a sort of like I don't have it. I'm not good enough type of energy, and it's like again the 41 is a 5 card, a card of change. A card of great change. So I feel again this message of we're stepping into greater sovereignty. So we're up leveling. We're up leveling into a pure expression of our soul song. So even the way I was talking about how I was feeling the stones in a more intense way. Our abilities, what we may have had activated to a certain degree are expanding and up leveling. So just this where because often when we're going through a level and we're up leveling and we're reaching into a greater sovereignty and greater access within ourselves, we can feel kind of bored and stuck, like because we're outgrowing the sphere that we're in, and we're going into another one, right? It's like what I was talking about with the pot, right? We're going into bigger soil where we have more room and we have more access and we have more of all these things. But before we make that jump, we can feel kind of stuck and bored and like, oh, nothing's happening in my life, or even if it's just an energetic of like compression, right? That's that threshold moment where you're like, I can't do this another second longer. Well, why? Because you're alchemizing into a greater expansion of yourself, of your soul, where you get to access more of your soul, you get to have more of your gifts, and so these crunches really being worth it. But it feels like they're getting like really really intense. I mean, I don't know, maybe this one was just a really huge jump that we just did together, where now we're going to start to experience again a greater level of centeredness to ride this wave of intensity through, where maybe this was it, where it's like starting to rise in intensity. So our souls, our DNA, our higher selves were like, okay, now's the time, we're really gonna hit you hard. Sorry babes, shut up, deal with it, stop whining, this is for you, remember. And then we just kind of like compress into a greater expression where we can handle more, or maybe we just do it over and over again. I don't know, but all I know is feeling this card again, describing the energy of the threshold moments when you start to feel kind of stuck, or you start to feel like you're not equipped, or you can't do it, or something like that, is because you're about to access more of yourself. So I am going to pull a couple more cards, and see if it goes in a different direction. It's kind of repeating what I've said, and also validating, which is good. We'll see what those cards were. I think there were 3 of them. Let's see what we get here. I'm going to take them. Oh, yeah, Ocean. Oh, that's so cool. Generosity. So the part of the river that I went in yesterday, I was telling my daughter about Ocean, because I went with this woman, and she taught me about this Santorini goddess, and she's a water goddess, right? So we were in the river, her and I, and we were just, like goddesses, and just playing in the water. We were the only ones in there. It was just such a magical time with this woman. I haven't spent time with her maybe since then, but really special moment. And so in this deck it's generosity, but this reminds me of water. For me, she represents water. And so same thing with the Amazonite that I'm wearing, a real watery sort of soothing energy. So I feel like this is also sort of bringing up that nurturing energy and self-nurturance, because our nervous systems can get really fried in these energies. Our adrenals, so like ashwagandha. I take ashwagandha every morning with rhodiola, so it's like naturally increases energy. Ashwagandha, and what I had learned recently from our herbalist in town is like taking ashwagandha in the morning, and then it like works all day. So it's like you take it in the morning and it works throughout the day, and then it helps you at night. And whereas Tulsi you take at night. So I was taking Tulsi and ashwagandha in the morning with green tea, and she's like, no, you're giving your body mixed messages, you're like doing caffeine, so anyway, just figuring out how to nurture the adrenals and the nervous system, and the stones and flower essences and essential oils, or however you feel called to do that, or even just being in water, or drinking lots of water, or taking baths or showers, or whatever it is. But the water element being really soothing, that also being the element of flow, where you're not trying to control things. You're not trying to live from fear, or getting into this space or this space, and then coming up with like a mental plan of what you have to do, and then being hard on yourself for not being able to do it, or whatever it is. It's like leaning into the spirit plan, and leaning into the flow. Whatever, one of my sisters reminded me the other day, it's like, when you have energy, go with the energy, and when you don't, then don't, then rest, just let, trusting the cyclical nature of things. Okay, here is Earth. Here is, the Earth card, Gaia. So again, this is an Earth movement. This is what's going on right now on the planet. Heavy moves on our planet, coming into alignment. This is the Earth Trek. This is why we're here. This is what we signed up for. Those of you resonating with this reading, that we came here for this. We came here for the Earth. We came here to embody, to be part of this plan. Our higher selves choosing this to bring our sovereignty and that higher light down onto the earth and living it through that heaven on earth timeline. But right now, we're on that threshold, we're on that transition. It's a little bit rocky. So here's the illusion card. This came up in the reading yesterday as well. And so going along with the nine of air, the worry and anxiety and fear card, and the Five of Pentacles, the feeling lack and limitation. It's illusion. All of that is an illusion. That's not the truth of this realm. That's not the truth of the reality. It's the truth of the program. It's the truth of the matrix. It's what everybody has experienced, but it's not the truth of the energy, the organic, integrated harmonics that are here naturally on the earth. Yes, they've been covered up. There's a big web of lies and illusion over top, but it's not real. It's not real. So again, the way we're working through this time where the illusion is crumbling and it's really loud right now. She's so beautiful. I love her eyes. Wow. Yeah, look at her eyes. Her eyes are kind of similar. That's interesting. They're both like sort of like vampire-ish. I mean, not vampire in, but just like otherworldly eyes. Anyway, I'm just noticing that transmissions through the eyes that came up recently. Transmissions through the eyes. Anyway, that's kind of a tangent, but flowing with what's happening here. What's happening is we're anchoring the higher energies down onto the earth. It's exposing the illusions. It's exposing the nightmares. It's exposing all that wasn't true in your life, with whoever is around you, with your habits, with whatever is not in alignment with this plan is going to be falling apart and breaking down, because it's part of the illusion. It's part of the lie, and it can't hold. It doesn't have any energy to sustain, because the truth of this realm is this God consciousness, this unity consciousness. And so again, the way to move through that is that self-nurturance and generosity as well, giving to others, having compassion, but also knowing when to be compassionate and when to have boundaries, and not giving in a way where you're just leaking yourself, you're leaking your energy. It's like water with a container of divine wisdom, where you're choosing. I think I'm going to pull from this deck actually. Where you are choosing and directing your energy with consciousness, not through default programming from the illusion where you've been trained to act, altruism or just being kind to everybody or putting everybody else before yourself. No, you're flowing with what is called for in the moment. Sometimes that's generosity, sometimes it's not. But the flow of water, moves around obstacles, it seeps through things, it does whatever it needs to do as long as it can keep flowing. Okay. And even when it doesn't flow, it still evaporates and it still gets more from the sky. Integrity. Okay, so yeah, being in integrity. So there it is again, just in every moment, assessing what needs to be done. There's scales here, and that's exactly what I was just talking about. Like, what is the appropriate action for the moment? What is the most integral thing to do? What is for the highest and best of all concerned in this moment? And it's usually what we instinctively, intuitively want to do, not through ego or not through programming, but what feels right, even if it goes against what we might have been trained to think as the right thing, or what other people might expect of us or one of us. But again, always choosing. We were talking about this earlier, always choosing. There's that ball again, that's that perfect balance, choosing what keeps things in balance and harmony for you, so that you can flow through these changes and these transitions, preserving our own energy, preserving our own sanity, our own sanity, keeping our center. It's the most important thing that we can do right now to ride this wave, to ride through these intense energies, and acting with integrity and pausing, being conscious and pausing and giving a lot of room to breathe for ourselves and for others, a lot of compassion, understanding that a lot of people are going through a hard time and are getting destabilized and need support, and that doesn't mean you need to keep lending them a hand. If you've tried to support somebody and it's getting to the point where it's a drain to you, then you can move on and let somebody else take that role for them, or let them have whatever consequence they need to help them, to clear and to come into more sovereignty for themselves. But again, just assessing in every moment what is the highest action. So, all right, I think I'm going to end there. I'm at 38 minutes. Thank you for joining with me in this consciousness, and I can always feel it. I love doing these videos because I can always feel the one mind that gets created. I can feel the energy of people resonating with us, and all of us kind of building this the remembrance of these truths of our reality and what we're going for together, and it makes it stronger. So thank you for participating in that. If you made it this far, and I will see you next time if I do. Okay.